"They're laughing at you, you know." The words cut through Ellie like a gust of city wind, sharp and biting, as the street performer's mocking grin flashed in the neon glow of the downtown square. Her faded jacket, its sleeves frayed from thrift store wear, marked her as an outsider in the crowd's eyes. Her scuffed sneakers a silent confession of struggle. The smartphones raised around her gleamed like weapons, their lenses capturing every tremble of her hands as they clutched her violin case. The crowd's jeers grew louder, a digital chorus amplified by live streams and hashtags, pressing against her like the weight of the city itself. Ellie's heart hammered, a frantic pulse in her chest, but she didn't run, not yet. "Play something, street rat," shouted a man in a leather jacket, his voice dripping with scorn, his phone streaming to thousands. "Let's see if you're worth the sidewalk you're standing on." Ellie's breath hitched, her hazel eyes flickering with fear but burning with something fiercer, defiance, a spark that refused to flicker out. "I didn't ask for this," she said, her voice soft, trembling, but steady enough to carry over the crowd's taunts. The man laughed, his phone tilting closer, his followers' comments flooding the screen with laughing emojis. "Oh, come on," he sneered, gesturing to the crowd. "You're here now, entertain us." Humiliation scorched Ellie's throat, a bitter ache she'd tasted before, but her fingers tightened around the violin case, its chip would a tether to something unbroken within her. What the man didn't know, what none of these strangers, with their flashing screens and fleeting cruelties, could have imagined, was the music that lived in Ellie's veins, or the silence it would shatter tonight. Have you ever been cornered, dared to fail just so others could point and laugh? Felt the sting of a world deciding you're nothing before you've even had a chance to shine? Today, you're stepping into Ellie's story, a young woman whose simplicity hid a gift so radiant it would hush a city square and rewrite the narrative of everyone watching. This is a tale of shame, courage, and a redemption so powerful it'll leave you breathless. Stick with me, you won't believe what happens next. Ellie Morgan wasn't the kind of person who chased the spotlight. At 24, her life was quiet, pieced together like a patchwork quilt, each stitch a small act of survival. She wore second-hand clothes, a faded green jacket, jeans patched at the knees, not out of necessity alone, but because they felt like her, like the smell of rain on asphalt or the hum of her tiny apartment's radiator. Her chestnut hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, strands escaping to frame her face, bare of makeup. Her hazel eyes held a quiet intensity, a depth that went unnoticed by the city's rush. Her presence swallowed by the neon and noise of urban life. To the crowd in the square, their voices amplified by social media's echo chamber, she was a nobody, a street performer, a fleeting amusement, someone to mock and move on from. But inside, Ellie carried a strength forged in years of being unseen, a resilience shaped by countless moments of dismissal. She'd learned to walk softly, to let the world's judgments glance off her like pebbles on water. Most days, anyway. Tonight wasn't most days. She stood in the heart of the city square, a concrete stage ringed by skyscrapers and food trucks, its air thick with the scent of grilled onions and diesel. Her violin case rested at her feet, a battered relic she'd carried since she was a child, its wood scarred but warm, like a friend who'd weathered every storm. She hadn't planned to play tonight. Not like this. She'd come to busk, to earn a few dollars for rent, her music a quiet offering to passers-by. But when a group of influencers spotted her, their phones already streaming, they'd turned her into a spectacle, a viral dare to make the street girl play. Now, Ellie gripped the case, its weight grounding her as the crowd's taunts grew louder. The man in the leather jacket, who called himself J-Vibe Online, was the ringleader, his live stream drawing thousands of viewers, their comments a flood of cruelty. "She looks homeless. Bet she can't even play. This is gonna be epic." Others joined in, their phones raised like torches, their laughter a digital wildfire. A woman in a designer coat smirked, whispering to her friend, "She's out of her league." A teenage boy in a hoodie shouted, "Play or go home." Ellie's heart raced, her palms slick against the case, but beneath the fear, something stirred, a memory, a melody, a promise she'd made long ago. Years ago, Ellie had been someone else, not a busker, not a target, but a girl with dreams as wide as the horizon. She'd grown up in a crumbling neighborhood, where the streets sang with sirens and the sky felt too heavy to hold hope. Her mother, a nurse with weary hands, had found the violin at a pawn shop, its strings worn but singing, a gift for a daughter who felt everything too deeply. Ellie had practiced in their cramped living room, her fingers blistering, her heart soaring, each note a ladder to a life beyond the concrete. She'd played in school recitals, in community centers, her music drawing crowds who saw her, really saw her, for the first time, but life had intervened. Her mother's illness, bills that piled like bricks. A world that didn't care about a girl with no connections. The violin had grown quiet, a relic of a dream. She'd tucked away, but never abandoned. Tonight, that dream felt closer, sharper, like a star breaking through the city's haze. J-Vibe stepped closer, his phone thrust toward her face, his voice loud for his audience. "What's the holdup, huh?" he said, his grin wide, predatory. "Scared you'll bomb? Play something, or are you just wasting our time?" The crowd laughed, their phones flashing, their comments streaming. "She's done, total fraud." Ellie's cheeks burned, a warmth spreading under her skin, but she didn't look away. Her eyes met J-Vibe's, searching for a flicker of humanity, finding only glee. "I didn't come here to be your joke," she said, her voice soft, almost lost in the noise, but with a thread of steel that made a few in the crowd pause. "A joke?" J-Vibe echoed, turning to the crowd, his arms wide. "She says she's not a joke." "Prove it, then. Play that violin, street rat." The taunt swelled, a wave crashing over her, pushing her toward the center of the square. A street vendor nearby lowered his radio, his eyes flickering with sympathy, but he stayed silent. A woman in a business suit muttered, "She should just leave." A girl with glittery nails typed furiously on her phone, her live stream caption reading, "Epic fail incoming." Inside, Ellie was fracturing, her heart a fragile thing under the weight of their scorn. "You're nothing, you don't belong," she'd heard those voices before, when her mother died, leaving her alone with grief and debt, when she'd auditioned for music schools, her talent overshadowed by wealthier peers with polished resumes. She'd heard them on these streets, her music drowned by the city's indifference. She'd fought those voices then, carved a life from grit and quiet pride. She'd fight them now, but God, it hurt. Her hand tightened around the violin case, her knuckles whitening, the wood cool against her palm. She could walk away, disappear into the crowd, let their laughter be the last word. But something burned brighter, a memory of her mother's voice, tired but fierce. "Your music is yours, Ellie, no one can take that." She took a breath, her chest rising, the air sharp with the tang of exhaust and fried food. "Okay," she said at last, her voice barely audible, yet heavy with resolve. A stone dropped into the chaos. "I'll play." J-Vibe's grin widened, his phone steady, his followers' comments exploding. "This is it. She's gonna crash." The crowd pressed closer, their phones a constellation of red lights, their laughter a challenge. Ellie stepped into the center of the square, her sneakers scuffing the concrete, the violin case a shield at her side. She knelt, her hands trembling as she opened it, the violin inside gleaming softly, its curves worn but alive, like a heart waiting to beat. Her fingers brushed the wood, a shiver running through her. A memory of nights spent playing under streetlights, of crowds that had once stopped for her, their silence a gift she'd cherished. She lifted the violin, its weight both burden and salvation, and tucked it under her chin. The bow felt heavy in her hand, its horsehair taut, ready to weave magic from pain. The crowd's jeers softened, but it wasn't kindness, it was anticipation, the hush of a mob waiting for a stumble. J-Vibe crossed his arms, his phone still raised, his smirk unwavering. The woman in the designer coat whispered, "This'll be quick." The teenage boy shouted, "Make it fast." Ellie closed her eyes, shutting out their faces, their screens, their cruelty. She thought of her mother, her hands rough from work, her smile when Ellie played. She thought of the girl she'd been, fearless, her music a flame that warmed the coldest nights. That girl was still here, scarred but unbroken, her heart pulsing in every note she'd held inside. She drew the bow across the strings, a single note rising, clear and trembling. Like a star piercing the city's smog, the sound was soft at first, fragile, but it grew, filling the square with a warmth that felt like dawn breaking. She chose Paganini's Caprice No. 24, its opening notes daring and intricate, a challenge wrapped in beauty. Her fingers moved, hesitant then sure, each stroke a memory, each chord a defiance of the voices that had tried to silence her. The music swelled, fierce and alive, a cascade of notes that danced through the square, sharp and wild, then soft. A whisper of longing. Ellie's eyes stayed closed, her body swaying, the violin an extension of her soul, her heart laid bare, the notes climbed, dizzying and precise, telling a story of loss, of struggle, of a fire that refused to die. Inside, she was flying, her heart open, raw, pouring everything into the music, her grief, her strength, her love for a world that hadn't always loved her back. She remembered her mother's hospital room, playing softly as the monitors beeped, the notes carrying her love beyond words. She remembered the streets, her violin a companion through lonely nights, its music a promise she'd kept despite everything. The crowd's laughter died, their phones lowering, their comments slowing as the music took hold. J-Vibe's smirk faded, his arm dropping slightly, his followers' emojis replaced by question marks, by hearts. The woman in the designer coat leaned forward, her eyes wide, her breath caught, the teenage boy's shout caught in his throat. His hands falling to his sides, Ellie's playing grew bolder, the notes spiraling, fierce and free, a storm breaking into sunlight. Her fingers flew, her bow a blur, the music a living thing that wrapped the square in its embrace. She wasn't a busker now, not a joke. She was Ellie Morgan, a woman whose heart sang louder than their mockery, whose gift shone brighter than their disdain. The final note hung in the air, sharp and aching, a cry that held the crowd captive. Ellie lowered the violin, her breath uneven, her eyes still closed, as if afraid to face the world. She'd transformed. The silence was profound, a moment where the city itself seemed to pause, the hum of traffic fading, the neon dimming, then, a single clap, soft, uncertain, from the street vendor who'd watched her, his radio silent now. Another followed, then another, until the square erupted, applause crashing like a tide, raw and unscripted. Phones were lowered, live streams forgotten, as the crowd surged forward, some standing, some shouting, their faces a mix of awe and shame, their hands moving as if compelled. Ellie opened her eyes, blinking against the neon, her heart racing. She saw the vendor, his smile wide, his hands red from clapping. She saw the woman in the business suit, her eyes glistening, her phone tucked away. She saw the girl with glittery nails. Her live stream ended, her face flushed with something like reverence. J-Vibe stood frozen, his phone limp in his hand, his followers' comments now a flood of praise. Who is she? That was unreal. He tried to speak, his voice lost in the applause, his bravado shattered. A woman in a tailored blazer pushed through the crowd, her face kind, her voice cutting through the noise. Miss Morgan, she said, her card extended, I'm with a music agency. That was extraordinary. We'd love to talk. Auditions, recordings, anything you want. The crowd gasped, whispers spreading. An agency. Her, but Ellie barely heard them. She looked at the violin in her hands, its wood warm from her touch, and felt her mother's presence, her voice in her ear. Your music is yours. I don't know, she said, her voice soft but clear, carrying over the murmurs. I play for me now, but I'll think about it. The woman nodded, respect in her eyes, and stepped back. The applause swelled again, louder now, a chorus of voices that drowned out the cruelty that had come before. J-Vibe forced a laugh, his phone raised again, but his voice was weak, his followers turning away. Nice show, he muttered, but no one listened. The crowd's focus was on Ellie, on the woman they tried to break, whose music had rebuilt the night. Ellie set the violin back in its case, her movements slow, deliberate, each gesture a reclaiming of her worth. The crowd parted as she walked away, their eyes following her, not with scorn now, but with wonder, with regret. She stepped into the city's pulse, the night cool against her skin, the violin case heavy in her hand. The square's lights faded behind her, but her music lingered, shared in viral clips, in whispers among strangers, in hearts that had felt its truth. Days later, the story spread, of the busker who silenced a crowd, of the influencer humbled by his own game. J-Vibe's followers dwindled, his apology video ignored, while Ellie's performance trended, her name a beacon for those who'd felt unseen. The agency's offer stood, but Ellie didn't rush to decide. She played in her apartment, the notes soft and free, for herself, for her mother, for the dreams that had never faded. She was enough, always had been, always would be. You've just walked through Ellie's story, a woman whose simplicity hid a gift that hushed a city, whose courage turned mockery into awe. Maybe you felt what she felt, standing in a world that tried to drown your voice, that dared you to fail. Maybe you've carried your own quiet fire, waiting for the moment to let it shine. Here's the truth. you are enough, exactly as you are. Your heart, your gifts, your story, they matter, even when the world looks away. What did you think of Ellie's journey? Have you ever seen someone rise above cruelty like she did, turning shame into something radiant? Have you felt that spark in yourself, that moment when you refuse to be small? Drop a comment below, share this video, and let's build a community that sees the unseen, that celebrates the music in every soul. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in redemption, in courage, in stories that make us feel deeply, achingly human. I'll see you in the next one.